All right, good. All right, I'll go ahead and get started then. As Marco mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit today about controlling pests with band steam and new cultivator technologies. And the pests we're trying to control are those that we have difficulty controlling with our conventional pesticides, and those are in-row weeds, soil-borne pathogens, which cause sclerotinia lettuce drop, and also fusarium wilted lettuce. It's one way to control these pests is with steam. It's a well-known practice. It's been around for at least a century. You raise the soil temperature to a sufficient level of heat, and it will sterilize the soil and control these pests. This technique is still used today, primarily in greenhouses, using steam heat. There are also some field machines that come in a variety of different sizes, shapes, and colors. As you can see, they're fairly large, fairly beastly machines, but they all pretty much work on the same principle, and that is, if you look at the picture of the machine in the center, basically they have some sort of a injection spike that is lowered into the ground. Steam is inserted into the soil surface for several minutes. That platform is then raised up. The machine is indexed over to the next plot of ground, and the process is repeated. This process is, as you might imagine, quite slow and energy intensive. So we came up with a concept of using what we're calling band steam. And in band steam, the idea is to treat just a narrow band or strip of soil. In our case with lettuce, something 4 inches wide by 2 inches deep to control sclerotinia and weeds. That's where most of the sclerotia reside, and also the weed seeds that germinate. And then maybe to a deeper depth, 6 inches to control fusarium. The advantage of this, of course, is that by treating just a narrow band of soil, we're saving quite a bit of energy, and that should allow us to move at a more reasonable travel speed. Steve Fenimore did some early preliminary work on this concept. He built a prototype single line steam applicator, and it worked fairly well for what it was. It raised the soil temperatures to about 140 degrees for over 10 minutes. And that is important in that, well, I guess what's important is not just the maximum temperature you raise the soil to, but also the dwell time, or how long it stays at that temperature. And for soil-borne pathogens, that time temperature kind of magical number is 140 degrees for 20 minutes. It's a little bit higher for weed seed, 150 degrees for 20 minutes. Here are some of his results. You can see that the use of steam did a really good job of controlling weeds in the seed line, and the numbers bore that out. If you look in the table here, you can see that as compared to the control, it got about 16 times better or improved weed control. It also did a fairly good job on controlling lettuce drop. So we were fortunate enough to receive some funding and improve upon this prototype applicator. I guess that would be the objective, to build a improved version of this, and then to design and test the machine to determine if it was able to meet to raise soil temperatures to sufficient levels to control soil-borne pathogens and weed seed. And again, the temperature dwell time numbers for those two pests are 140 degrees for 20 minutes and 150 degrees for 20 minutes for weeds. The other thing we were interested in looking at was the use of co-applying an exothermic product with the steam. Exothermic compounds are those that release heat. And so the idea with using the exothermic compound, in this case, hydrogen peroxide, is that it would reduce our requirements for steam input to raise the soil temperature and thereby save energy and also allow us to travel at a higher speed. So set up an experiment to determine how well the machine would perform. Looked at 5 different treatments: a steam-only treatment, a steam plus hydrogen peroxide injected into the soil, one with hydrogen peroxide sprayed on top of the soil surface, one with hydrogen peroxide injected and sprayed at the same time, and then of course our untreated control. Here's the picture of the our second iteration prototype band steam applicator, basically comprised of a steam generator mounted on a bed shaper. We're injecting steam with some injection knives out in front of the bed shaper. And then we also are delivering steam towards the back of this elongated bed shaper using these funnel or conical shaped devices to apply steam to that 4-inch wide band on top of the soil surface. It takes quite a bit of steam to raise the soil temperature to the sufficient levels that we want. So here's a picture showing that. Again, you can see the pan steamers, and then out towards the back, you can see the steam being output from these pan steaming devices. This is just a picture showing the machine in the field injecting steam. And this is the setup we had for spraying hydrogen peroxide onto the soil surface. Have a short video here of the machine in operation. And in this case, we're traveling about half a mile an hour. And then Nick Barr, who's a graduate student working on this project, is inserting some thermocouples to measure soil temperature. And the depth he has the probe at is about an inch. Takes a little bit for the probe to heat up. But you can see there we're reaching about 160 degrees Fahrenheit in the top inch of the soil. Whoops. Okay. I have another picture here, just a video here real quick, showing how we're applying the hydrogen peroxide out in front of the machine. If you look close, you can see how it's kind of interacting with the biological materials in the soil. causing that exothermic reaction. Here's some of the results from the trial. These are temperature measurements recorded in the center of the seed line. Down here at the bottom at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit is our untreated control. This is our critical temperature for controlling pathogens, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And this line shows the critical temperature for controlling weed seeds, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Our top treatment in this case actually happened to be steam. Applying the hydrogen peroxide was turned out to be no benefit in this particular case. This is the results 2 inches away from the seed line. And again, our untreated control is about at 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Our 140 degree line is shown here. And in this case, spraying the hydrogen peroxide on the soil surface improved soil temperatures about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. However, as you can see here, none of our treatments were effective at elevating the temperature 2 inches away from the seed line to sufficient levels. Another way of looking at this data is to plot or record the highest soil temperature that is maintained for 2 minutes. Again, here's our 140 degree threshold or critical value. And you can see here, for the most part, all 4 of our treatments were able to raise the soil temperature at the 1 and 2 inch depth above this threshold for 20 minutes. At our deeper depths of 3 and 5 inches, not so good. By and large, none of the treatments were effective. And as a comparison, in the lower right-hand corner is our untreated control. This graph shows the data from 2 inches away from the center of the seed line. Again, our threshold level. And then again, by and large, inadequate performance at all of our depth ratings. The only exception might be this data point here, which again is the steam plus hydrogen peroxide sprayed on the soil surface. Another way to look at this data is in table form. Again, here we're looking at the center of the seed line and pretty much tells the same story. At our 1 and 2 inch depths, all the treatments met our 20-minute dwell time threshold, and we did a pretty good job of meeting that threshold at the higher temperature required for controlling weeds, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. 2 inches away from the center of the seed line, none of our treatments performed adequately at the 1 inch depth. At the 2 inch depth, again, the only treatment that showed any real potential was spraying the hydrogen peroxide on the soil surface. So to kind of summarize and conclude here, we thought that for a first run prototype machine, the band steam applicator and use of hydrogen peroxide showed good promise for raising soil temperatures to sufficient levels to control soil-borne pathogens, and also with a little bit of improvement weed seed. However, better distribution of steam is needed, particularly away from the center of the seed line. Again, we want to try and control the pests in a 4 inch wide band centered on the seed line, and then also raise the soil temperatures deeper depths. We're thinking about 6 inches to control fusarium, get that volume of soil right around the seedling, free of fusarium pathogens, and get it off to a good start, and hopefully survive and make a harvestable head. And so so we're in the process of addressing these issues. This fall, we are going trying to optimize the machine operating parameters, and then also conduct some field trials to assess the control of fusarium wilt, lettuce drop, and also in-row weeds. So I'd like to take a minute and acknowledge our sponsors for this project, and they are the USDA NIFA Crop Protection and Pest Management Program, the Arizona Iceberg Lettuce Research Council, and also Yuma Incorporated. I'd like to switch gears here now and talk about new cultivator technologies. And I put new in quotation marks because these technologies really aren't new. They've been around for a while. The first one I'm showing here is a finger weeder. These devices have been around for decades. And basically, if you're not familiar with these devices, they're basically comprised of a rubber flexible fingered wheel that is ground driven. These fingers are positioned in pairs and positioned such that the fingers overlap a little bit and do some tillage in the center of the seed row. I'll have show a video of these operating a little bit later. The other second technology is a camera guided cultivator or hitch, side shift hitch. Basically, these machines utilize a forward looking camera to identify the crop row, and then have a hitch that is able to slide back and forth relative to the tractor and position the cultivator, move the cultivator side to side, and allow very accurate tracking of the seed row. The third technology is GPS RTK auto steered tractors. And the reason we're looking at these technologies is to address the issue of herbicide resistant weeds in cotton. This problem is becoming more and more problematic in Arizona and throughout the country, and I guess really throughout the world. Cultivation is obviously an effective management tool. Doesn't rely on herbicides, and if you cultivate the weed, it's a pretty sure way of killing it. There are some limitations with conventional cultivation. It only controls the weeds between the crop rows, and also lacks lateral precision. So we have a project funded through Cont Incorporated, and the goal of this project was to determine if these technologies could improve cultivator weed control efficiency. And so we set up a fairly simple experiment with 5 treatments. The first would be conventional, where we're using Lilliston type cultivators, with the Lillistons positioned about 10 inches apart, leaving an uncultivated band of about 10 inches. The second treatment would be using a GPS guided tractor with the cultivating tools positioned about 6 inches apart. Skip down here to the fourth treatment, the camera guided cultivator, where we're able to be more precise and put the cultivating tools a little bit closer together. In this case, we used a 3.5-inch uncultivated band. And then we looked at using treatments 2 and 4 with finger weeders also, and those are treatments 3 and 5. Have some videos here of the different treatments. This is the auto steer tractor with the 6-inch uncultivated band. Skip one there. Okay, so this is the auto steer tractor with the finger weeders. This would be the camera guided cultivator. And the goal here is to go into fairly young cotton, seedling cotton, try and control those early weeds that cause the most damage. And then here's the camera guided cultivator with finger weeders. This is a machine that Keithley Williams and Colt Crest put together, allowed us to use it in our trials. So here real quick are the treatments again. The 6-inch uncultivated band with the auto-guided tractor with and without finger weeders, the camera-guided cultivator with and without finger weeders, and then our control, which again, it's just Lillisons with sweeps. Here are some of the results from the trial. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with all the data, but what I'd like you to concentrate on is the column on the right-hand corner of the screen. And if you look at the weed control efficacy, we didn't see a lot of difference between our conventional cultivation and auto-steered tractors. I think the reason for that is even though the Lillisons were positioned 10 inches apart, they're fairly aggressive and effectively really disturb to a level, leaving an uncultivated band of about the same 6-inch uncultivated band. There were some differences, however, between the 6-inch uncultivated band and the camera guided cultivator. Here we're seeing about a 32% improvement or in weed control efficacy. And this makes sense. If you think about it, the cultivating tools are going to control pretty much all of the weeds they encounter. If you look at the 2.5-inch difference between 6 inches and 3.5 inches, convert that to a percentage basis, that comes out to 40%. And so it makes sense that the weed control is essentially inversely proportional to the width of the uncultivated band. The other point I would like to highlight from this slide is the excellent weed control we had using camera guidance and finger weeders. Overall, our weed control effectiveness was 85%, which was pretty good. But we did an excellent job of controlling our pigweed and other broadleaf weeds, over 90% weed control. How well did the finger weeders perform? We looked at a difference, categorized them as broadleaf and grassy weeds. The device did better in broadleaf weeds as compared to grassy weeds. However, overall, roughly in-row weed control with the finger weeders was pretty good, about 50%. A critical factor is the size of the weed. For the effectiveness of the finger weeder. So timing is critical. About the largest weed you can control is maybe 3 to 4 leaf stage, kind of about the size of the weed in the picture shown on the screen. And the reason for this is that the finger weeder tools are only able to do tillage, in-row tillage to a depth of about 1 inch. If you go much deeper than that, you're also going to uproot the seedling crop that you're trying to raise. As far as crop safety, we really didn't see any difference between the treatments or the use of finger weeders. You may look at these numbers and think they're a little bit high. Killing 10% of your crop plants with cultivation, something must be wrong. But I think the difference here is that different people counted the plant populations, and then also the canopy grew over, and it's a little bit difficult to count each and every individual plant. So where I think these devices might have a fit in vegetable production, I think one real good fit might be with our brassica crops. They're uproot in nature, and can be fairly well rooted, which is a positive thing. And then it also might have a fit in lettuce. Be interesting to try it. Elizabeth Mosqueda out of UC, University California State System in Monterey, is conducting some trials this summer in Salinas, California, with camera-guided cultivators and finger weeders. And in her trial, she's comparing finger weeder performance with standard cultivation. I'd like to point out a few highlights here. They're showing some about the same level in-row weed control that we found with the finger weeders, about 50%. As far as hand weeding time after cultivation, they're showing about a 2-hour per acre improvement, and then really no significant effect on harvestable yield. So that's really all I had for today. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors for this project, and also the private companies that provided a lot of resources and time resources and financial support as well. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.